I mentioned briefly this is the celebration of Sybil in their day. Was it the 22nd of March? But this temple is massive, and this temple was here for 1,000 years. Massive, massive temple to the goddess of Sybil. And when the Greeks conquered the place, they always merged their gods. So Artemis and Sybil is the same thing. It's just all in different time periods. So if you're talking about ancient times, it would be Sybil. If you're talking about the Roman period, it would be Artemis. But you always see two lions with her. And she is the goddess of fertility, always looked after, this is how things line this way, always looked after infant girls and brought health to them and dedication. It's kind of freaky. But this was what she did. She overprotected us, and usually she was around the hearth of the home, protecting the home as the female deity. But in this celebration, and I've seen historians talk about it a little bit, but probably close to 1 million people would gather in downtown Sardis for the celebration. And a part of the celebration, they would dress in white to bring, and this festival begins. Because the celebration was, in the myth of Sybil, there was a lover that she had by the name of Addis. And Addis, unfortunately, fell in love with a human girl, and she became furious, absolutely irate. And Addis tries to win her affection back, and to do this, and I apologize, my wife says I talk about these topics way too much up here, to bring as an offering to Sybil, he sacrifices his manhood on the altar to Sybil and becomes a eunuch. So this celebration is where the eunuch priests of Sybil would lead the procession from Sardis. It's about a 4 or 5 mile walk from Sardis to the temple. These eunuch priests would have these flails that they would have with them, and they would just beat themselves mercilessly on this procession. And as they're dressed in white, they would just beat themselves. Arnobius, the historian, says, on the day of blood, they slashed their arms and shoulders with knives, and the ground is wet with the flow of their veins. This is called the Day of Blood. The new initiates would walk with them, honored and celebrated that they're getting ready to be initiated into this cult of Sybil. So imagine self-flagellation, blood flowing, procession, white garments being just spotted and speckled with blood as they're doing this. And the whole thing was to work everybody up in a frenzy enough that there would be some that sacrifice as well on the altar to Sybil. Climb the steps, make the ultimate sacrifice to the goddess Sybil. And the goddess, the priest would say, if you were able to get the blood of those that made the sacrifice on you, it would count on your behalf as if you did it. So everybody is trying to get this blood on them in this frenzy. It's hard for us to imagine today how this would be, but just imagine this self-flagellation was doing this, and they would offer this, and Firmicus, the historian, says they performed shameful rites. They cut off their male organs and declare that they are the sacrificing to the mother of the gods. This is Sardis. That's the day of blood. Tomorrow is the day of Hilaria, the day of joy. So because they made the ultimate sacrifice of who they are, think of it as they sacrificed their lineage, Sybil would raise them up the next day into new life. You died, and now you're resurrected because your life now is in the Sybil. And that day is now, once again, they put on masks, and they can dress as whoever they want. So they could dress up as Caesar, they could dress up as some priestess or a priest, they could dress up as a nobleman, whatever they wanted to dress up like. It's Halloween, think that, because now you are into new life. You're a new being. And then there'll be this massive celebration that's happening, public games, public festivals, rejoicing in this because the Hilaria is celebrated because the mourning is over. It's new birth, and joy now returns to the people. You've been dead, but now you're alive. It says that laughter and satire was seen as purifying sources after grief. These are the words of him who holds the 7 spirits of God and the 7 stars. I know your deeds. You have a reputation of being alive, but you're dead. Wake up, strengthen what remains and is about to die, for I have found your deeds unfinished in the sight of my God. Remember, therefore, what you've received and heard. Hold it fast, repent. But if you do not wake up, I'll come as a thief, and you will not know at what time I will come to you. Yet you have a few people in Sardis who have not soiled their clothes. They will walk with me dressed in white, for they are worthy. The one who is victorious will, like them, be dressed in white. I will never blot out the name of that person from the book of life, but will acknowledge that name before my Father and his angels. Final thought, there's a fascinating building And you can barely see it in this picture, but it's back here. So this temple for about 1,000 years celebrated the Sybil festivals. 1,000 years. Every year, March 22nd, march up the stairs for the sacrifice. At the end of this, and we're not sure how close, we're not sure of when this building was built. If it's right at the end, it seems to overlap by about 100 years. But in this back corner, somebody built a 2-room chapel. But what's interesting in this chapel is they didn't find incense and altars. They found medical gear, scalpels, other medical devices and plates. I'm wondering if this church, instead of being soiled by the world, immersed themselves and offered medical help to the people celebrating the festival. If you want to talk about a gospel that's willing to get down, I envision myself, the church getting together and saying, guys, we know what date, it's March 22nd. It's March 22nd. They're hustling around. What supplies do we have? What do you got? I've got this, I've got gauze, I've got everything I need. I got Tylenol. They pull it all together and they're rushing. Where we go? Build a little place off. I have no idea how they got it back there. They built this, it's about as big as this platform, and they're in there going, who's going to come today? When I hear about abortion, when I hear about gender issues and all the things that are attacking our world with Indiana drugs and suicides and all of this, it's so easy to get a megaphone and preach at them, but it's far harder to stand and build a little building behind the abortion clinic or step behind the drug alley and present the gospel. Those of you who have engaged, those of you who have lived in Sardis and have not soiled your clothes, they are worthy. The one who is victorious, I will not blot out their name from their book of life. Whoever has ears, let them hear what the Spirit says to the churches.